Okay, so we're recording now. And Scott, you can take it away.
Great, thanks so much, Brett. Welcome to all of our panelists and our staff and our assistants and folks that are helping us from the Indiana Arts Commission today. And for those of you who are applicants who have joined us on the Zoom meeting, or if you're a member of the public, welcome. My name's Scott Wiley. I'm the General Counsel for the Indiana Arts Commission, and I also serve as the Director of the Volunteer Lawyer Program of Southwestern Indiana here in the southwestern part of the state of Indiana. Just want to let everybody know this is the grant panel for Region 10. This is for our Regional Initiative Grants Program for the Indiana Arts Commission, and we're thrilled to have all of you. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and this is a public panel review. And so for those of you who are joining us as members of the public or as applicants, just a reminder that you will be in listen mode only, and please keep yourself muted and your video off during this, and you are not to have any interaction with members of the panel. Today is the 22nd of April, 2020. And we are doing this meeting through an electronic platform. So as opposed to normal, when we might be in a room where if one of us took a sip from our Diet Mountain Dew or we had ate one of our ho-hos, it wouldn't be like you are literally standing 2 feet away from us staring at our face. So please give our panelists a little bit of slack if they want to take a sip of their coffee or have one of their ho-hos. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to actually introduce all of the panelists and let you know. I'm going to ask them to give their name, their community role, and their location. And that's also on the screen if you're doing the shared screen version with the panel from the Indiana Arts Commission. So I'm going to go with the order in which we have them on that slide. So Maya, why don't you introduce yourself first? And remember, you have to unmute yourself and then remute yourself when you're ready to go.
Hi, I'm Maya Alvarez. I ran the gallery at Stat Gallery down on Washington Avenue for a couple of years with my dad, who's a local artist. I know lots of artists and have befriended, a lot of local artists, and with the Arts Council, I've just, have worked around Haney's Corner and Pocket the City. So hi, happy to be here.
Great, thanks so much, Maya. And then next we have Jennifer Darnell.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Darnell. I'm an experience manager at EVPL North Park. I work with a lot of kids programming. I'm also married to Kyle Darnell, who is an art teacher and artist here in Evansville. So thanks for having me.
Great, thanks so much, Jennifer. And then one of my favorite actresses ever, Kensington.
Good morning. My name is Kensington Eck. I'm the founder of Think Pink Productions, which is a local community theater that's committed to doing innovative productions in the area. I'm also a vocal specialist for the local school corporation and a theater coach, and super excited to be here today.
Great, thanks so much. Kyle, we'll let you go next.
Hi, I'm Kyle Darnell. I'm the visual arts instructor at Signature School and an adjunct instructor at University of Evansville. Been making art in Evansville for 7 years now, so art.
Beautiful. And then Jaleesa.
Good morning. My name is Jaleesa Slade. I am the Director of Development at the Evansville African American Museum. I've been in nonprofits for the past 11 years. That's about the time I've been in Evansville as well, and just happy to be here.
We're glad to have you too. And then Samantha Fuente.
Hi, yeah, I'm the Vice President of the Haney's Corner Arts District Association and also the event planner. So I put together quite a few community events, including our soon to be hopefully monthly First Fridays.
Oh, don't we all wish that comes back? My goodness. Oh, next we're going to have Ann McKim introduce herself. Ann is the Executive Director of the Arts Council, Southwestern Indiana. They are the regional arts partner for the Indiana Arts Commission here in our region and do a wonderful job. In addition to the paneling that we're doing today, Ann has so many different involvements, advertising and putting out into the world the wonderful work of the Indiana Arts Commission and the wonderful work that she does at the Arts Council. So Ann, why don't you fill in here by how they can interact with you?
Yeah, hi, good morning, and thank you all for joining us. Major thanks to the panelists who have put quite a bit of work into reviewing these grant applications for us. The Arts Council newly is the regional arts partner for the Indiana Arts Commission. As Scott said, we assumed the role in July of 2019. And so the facilitating of the grant process, the arts project support and arts operating support is part of what we do for the IAC. In addition, we try to share all of their granting and funding opportunities, their educational resources, development resources. We're so pleased that we've had in the previous funding cycle, several local artists go through the on-ramp program, which is a great project that the IAC does for professional development for emerging artists or developing artists. There are so many opportunities to work with the IAC. I would also encourage everyone who is in this call, panelist or not, to make sure that they're aware of the Homecoming Conference, which is the statewide arts conference that's held every year. All of this information can be found on our website, which is www.artswin.org, or you can give us a call, shoot us an email. I also encourage you to follow the Arts Council social media, which is a really easy way that we have of resharing information coming down from the state level. I think that pretty much sums it up. We, like all of you, are really eager to get back to the community programming and arts programming that we love to do. So hopefully we'll be seeing you all in person and not on a screen very shortly.
That's great. And just a reminder again, for those of you who are joining us as applicants or members of the public, we are very glad you're here, but we do ask you to remain on mute and keep your video turned off so that we can keep the focus on the panelists and our screens don't constantly joggle around with the Brady Bunch credits moving and someone that was Jan a minute ago is suddenly Peter. So with that, we're joined today as well by Paige Sharp from the Indiana Arts Commission and Brett Roberts from the Commission. They're going to be assisting us with technical other issues. Do either of you have anything you want to say?
I just want to say welcome and thank you. And clearly, Anne has assembled a really impressive panel. You guys have a great, wonderful breadth and wealth of experience to lend to this process. So I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion.
And Brett here is, as he already mentioned, is here for all your technical needs, and you have the contact and number information if you need to do that. Just a reminder as well to all of those members of the public or applicants, one of the reasons this is a public meeting, it's being recorded. We are dealing with taxpayer money from the state of Indiana. So make sure you don't have any interaction with members of the panelists. Don't do things like this. Don't do anything like that during the panel, and we will get through this just fine. The process we're going to go through now is I'm going to call out the application that we're going to do. We will have a first reader who will give us a bit of a summary of their evaluation. We'll have a second reader who will add to that conversation with new or different information. We'll then open it up briefly to the full panel, and then we will allow them to modify their scores if they need to and move on to the next. We have a fairly robust list today, so I'm going to try to move it as quickly as possible. If anybody goes a little long, I've got a new way of dealing with that today is I'm going to start giving myself a haircut, meaning you're talking too long. So there we go. Our first one up today is Princeton Band Boosters. I think everybody should have that up on their screen. And Jaleesa, we're going to make you go first, and you're going to set the tone for the entire panel. There you go. And then Kyle's going to be following you up. So Jaleesa, over to you. Be sure to unmute and then remute when you're ready to go. Off you go.
Thank you. No pressure. Okay, Princeton Band Boosters. I went the route of highlighting strengths and weaknesses so that we could have communication and dialogue based on that. As far as strengths, I highlighted their clear mission with practices in place to accomplish their goal. Also in areas of diversity and inclusion, financial aid opportunities that are available to decrease financial barriers for student participation. I want to highlight that, especially students that are receiving free or reduced lunch. They noted that in their grant, the high percentage. Also, as far as quality of the program, the artistic quality, various community performances and competitions that these students are able to participate in, that gives them a great opportunity to practice in front of crowds, also to receive feedback. And the monthly booster club meetings provide feedback for improvement as well. So that's parent involvement and their feedback. As far as weaknesses, I highlighted the information that was provided was unclear for the relevant experience of the staff for the project. The staff were listed and their responsibilities were listed. However, the credentials for the lead staff member was not. Always the assumption can be made if it's in the school system, someone was hired, that they are credible. However, it just wasn't communicated in the grant. And the grade range was stated as 7th through 12th grade. However, the selection process was not discussed, how the students were selected. So if someone is not familiar with band or that process, are the students auditioning? Do they apply? Are they nominated? That was something of interest that I would see that would need to be noted. Also, financial barriers were addressed, but actions to diversify participants and accessibility measures were not clear. So that was an area that I listed as a weakness as well for discussion.
Great, thanks so much. And Kyle, what do you want to add to that?
Okay, nothing. That was exactly what I wrote. This is very odd.
Great minds think
First
alike.
person that's ever followed the rules. That's great. Do other members of the panel want to add anything to that? If you do, go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm trying to get to the right screen now to see you.
I'm trying to use my school manners and raise my hand.
There we go. Well, I'm having trouble getting to my, I'm in the view where I can only see the person talking. I'm getting to the right one. So you go right ahead, Kensington.
Okay, yeah, I agree with all of that, and I would like to add, I'd like to know more about what kind of financial assistance is available. So, you let us know about the free and reduced lunch percentages for the school, but I'd like to know what kind of financial aid opportunities are really available to the families, because it did say on there that they could access it, but I wanted to know how receiving the grant would affect those financial aid opportunities. And I also wanted to know, there were things listed that said that, they do certain fundraisers like selling cookies, things like that. Is everyone expected to do that, or are there families that really rely on this kind of financial aid? But that was all I had to add.
Great, thanks. Anybody else want to add anything? I got people on the right screen now. Okay, if seeing none, go ahead and take a few minutes and alter your scores if you need to. Oh, Michael, right ahead.
Yeah, something. The video that they showed, I was just looking at, their efforts to show past experience or, success. And the video was kind of lacking. I would have loved to see more of their performance or of what they've done previously.
Great. Okay, with that, so why don't you go ahead and update your scores if you need to. The next one we'll be going to, if you want to be bringing that up on your screen while we give folks a minute to move forward, is going to be STAGEtwo Productions. Kensington's going to be the lead reader on that, followed by Jaleesa. So if you give me a thumbs up when you guys have completed your scoring and everything, I'll know we can move forward. Okay, great. I'm just going to do a message. I see we've got a guest join. We're going to ask all our guests to go ahead and turn their video off and their keep their audio muted, just so when you've got those, it doesn't pop up on our screens. Thank you so much. And the next one we're going to be doing too is we're moving to STAGEtwo Production, and we'll turn it over to Kensington to begin that.
Okay, so I really enjoyed reading through the grant application. I thought it was really detailed. I appreciated the timeline and the breakdown of the budget. As someone who's producing theater, like the more information I can get, the more I appreciate and can visualize the project itself. The big thing that I wanted to ask when I was looking at community engagement, you talk in the grant about wanting to reach out to underserved areas of the community. I wanted to know more specifically what that looks like. I did read that you said you wanted to go out and, start a conversation with different parts of the community the inner city area. I think you specifically mentioned immigrants, things like that. But what I want to know is, like, what does that conversation look like? Because as a theater producer, you know, it's difficult sometimes to get people to come to see new works. It's difficult sometimes to get people to come see old works and works they're familiar with. So how do you engage people who have no interest or no current accessibility to theater productions? How do you get them excited about a project like this and then serve them in a way that's relevant to them? I'd love more specificity there. But overall, I thought it was a pretty well-written grant and pretty specific. Well done.
Great. And Julie, so you want to go ahead and go with anything you need to add?
Yes, I just highlighted for their strengths, intentional strategies to be inclusive for the topic selection, as well as the audience. Completing portions of the activities timeline was very detailed, so that shows that it's very well organized and evaluated. To piggyback on inclusivity, I noted their marketing materials that they provided only showed social media, so Facebook as the main avenue of communication with the community. So especially if they're going to be more inclusive and looking at individuals who don't have access to technology, examples of marketing pieces, if they're using them, such as flyers, if they're distributing them to the community, or postcards that are being mailed out, that type of information would be beneficial.
Great, thanks so much. Do any other members of the panel want to ask any questions or add any comments on this one? Okay, no hands? Well, if we got no hands, then go ahead and do any modification to your scoring that you need to do for this application. If you want to be bringing up your next application, we're going to be doing the Victory International Film Festival next. The readers on that, Kensington's going to be up again, and Jennifer's going to be up on that one. And this is one of the ones that Sam has a conflict with. And for those of you who are in our listening audience, when someone has an involvement, we put them in another Zoom room during this discussion so that that conflict does not in any way interfere with the consideration of the application. And so if Brett can go ahead and move Samantha off into Zoom purgatory.
Samantha, if you could just
bring her back.
Yeah, I'm going to move you to a waiting room. All you need to do is just sit there until I bring you back in, and everything will be okay. Let's see. Okay, you're good to go.
Great. Who on the panel would like to have, of course, Samantha be the first reader on all the rest of the applications when she come back? Go ahead and raise your hands. Okay, very good. Just always want to get that done first once someone goes off. So Kensington, we'll let you go ahead and get started, unmute, and head away.
Excellent, thank you. So what I really appreciated about this grant was the tone of the grant seemed enthusiastic and really self-aware. I was really engaged because I felt like somebody was giving me an impassioned speech in front of me, which really had me engaged throughout the entire reading process. So really enjoyed that. I appreciated, they talked several times about the constructive criticism and feedback they received last year and the clear steps they were taking to make sure that, you know, training and things like that would be adjusted this year to take that into consideration. But overall, I thought that their timeline, the planning, and that the management of the project seemed pretty top notch. So, excellent. And again, I can't say enough about how much I enjoyed the tone of the grant. I thought was really impassioned.
Great, thanks, Kensington. Jennifer, you want to go ahead and do your additions?
I agree. This was super enthusiastic. I love how they keep engagement up throughout the year. And they mentioned a lot about the ADA compliances, and they're mindful of letting folks know about the language used in the film, so that way it's accessible to all folks. And then I also was impressed with their reach. They mentioned that this involved several different countries, and I was just really impressed with that as well, that they mentioned that. That's it.
Great, thanks so much. Do other members of the panel have any additional comments they'd like to make on the Victory International Film Festival application? Just raise your hand. Let me, Kensington, come right on back.
Am I allowed to talk again? I thought that the supporting materials were really polished and professional as well, and really added to the engagement.
Great. Anybody else want to add anything? Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, when I was reviewing this, this is not really a critique or anything, but it really reminded me of like the experience of when I go to the Lotus Festival in Bloomington. Like, it feels like an all-encompassing area type of thing that I really, like, will say I'm excited about. Like, this grant proposal really was just so thoroughly filled out and planned out. And then, yeah, it just kind of gives me that overall vibe of the Lotus Festival, which would be an amazing thing for Evansville.
That's great, Kyle. Thank you. Thank you for those comments. Anybody else want to add anything? Great. Thank you for all the comments on that one. We'll go ahead and give you time, each of the panelists time to update your scores if you need to. While we're updating scores and doing that, if you want to go ahead and queue up, we're going to be doing CMO next, the Children's Museum of Evansville. I can almost see it out my window from where I am right now. I'm very close. So we'll be doing that. And Jennifer's going to be doing the first read on that. And Maya is our second reader on that one. So go ahead and queue that up. And when you're done, change your scores, give me a thumbs up, and we'll move on.
Samantha is back in. So.
Oh, and I almost forgot. Samantha, just want to let you know that while you were out, we voted that you will be the first reader on the remaining applications.
Perfect. Thank you for the opportunity.
I knew you would be very appreciative. You've dealt with me before, so you know I'm full of it. Okay, so with that, Jennifer is going to be leading our discussion now on the Children's Museum of Evansville. Samantha, if you want to pull that one up, that's the next one. And I will go ahead and turn it over to Jennifer. Go for it.
Well, I love how they incorporated their active exhibits with their performance series, and I like that they are incorporating a variety of arts and performances into this series. I was also impressed with the involvement in the Museums for All program. I wasn't aware that that even existed, but I love that it does. And I think that they're aware of the access barriers they face and they're working to combat that. They have clear guidelines as to measure the project's impact and describe what a successful project looks like. And I think this seems like a really well thought out project. They're mindful of the different cultural and events and holidays. And it seems like the team is very capable.
Great, thank you so much, Jennifer. And the second one is Maya on this one. Maya, great, glad to get you now.
Yeah, I also agree. They have interactive play with some of the programming and, culturally diverse, with the Black History Month. They have good marketing and flyers. And I do like that they have that where they have a dollar admission for those who, have SNAP or TAN. They're ADA accessible. I mean, I like that they are just very engaged. I mean, I take my kids there myself, and I think once, everything going on currently is over, definitely people are going to make use of those programs. So yeah, I think the funds are very reasonable for the amount of programming that they do offer. So.
That's great. I know we mentioned this several times, the whole thing. Aren't we all going to be so glad when we can go out and partake of these wonderful, wonderful things? I think I hope our attendance at all of our arts things go up because we've been so trapped at home. But thanks, Jennifer and Mike, for that. Do other members of the panel want to add anything for CMO's application in terms of comments? Go ahead and raise your hand for me if you want to. Kensington, go right ahead.
So as a theater educator, and working in a school that's downtown, like sharing the same community that CMO serves, as I was reading the application, I wondered, is there a way, or has anyone considered maybe tying in some of the IDOE standards with some of the programming? Because that would be such an easy way to you know, share that information with the schools to support what's happening in the schools. Because there's so many educational aspects to what happens in the museum, but being able to add something like that to the grant, I think makes it so enticing and is such a great way to form partnerships with the schools in the area. So that struck me and I wanted to share it because, you know, whatever we can do to get kids out and engaged, like, let's do it.
Great. Anybody else want to add any comments on this one? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and let everybody spend a few moments to update any scoring or other things. If you want to be queuing up the next application we're going to be doing, it's the Public Education Foundation of Evansville. That's the next one. Sam is going to be doing the first read on that, and Kyle is going to be second read on that. So once you have gotten your scores updated, everything, give me the thumbs up and we'll move on to that one. Oh, I love, Julissa got, by the way, on our last panel, I don't know how she did it. I'm going to try to find out. One of our panelists actually had the ability to have like an emoji thumbs up pop up on her screen. It was my highlight. Oh my God, Samantha just did it. Okay. You're going to have to teach us how to, oh my God, see, this is why 56-year-olds should not be put in charge of any technology. Okay. Oh, you all can do it and I'm an idiot. There we go. That's pretty much confirmed now by every single person on this call. Okay, our attendees at home can now make fun of me. By the way, I'm going to now eat a ho-ho because of that. We'll now move on to the Public Education Foundation of Evansville. And Samantha, you're going to be our first reader on that.
Sure thing. I want to start by saying this is a very strong application, in my opinion. I was particularly impressed by the longevity of the project. I'm scrolling through, but 30-something years that this has been, 32 years that this project has been going on. The artistic quality also struck me pretty especially, super meaningful and impactful. Just reading through the ways in which they engage volunteers and the students participating was really impressive. The cast, crew, and orchestra all being students. The impact of this project seemed to be extremely high. In terms of engagement, I was especially happy with the diversity plans and it's clear they've done their research on who is or is not participating, reaching out to specific schools that that have lower involvement and finding ways to reduce barriers for that. I thought was really important. And then the opportunity to work with professionals is a really meaningful opportunity as well. I don't have a lot of feedback other than that, the planning was so detailed down to almost the minute, it felt like, and the budget seemed really appropriate. I have a limited experience in theater programming from a budgetary standpoint, but it all seemed to match up. So I was really impressed with this application. I don't really have any areas of, any really big areas of opportunity. It just was really impressive.
Great, thanks so much, Kyle. You're going to do the second half on this for us.
All right. Let's see. My thing's not loading up right now, but yeah, I pretty much agreed with everything Sam said. The only, it's very well organized, like feels like really down to the minute. I love the student engagement. The only problem I have with it is like the choice of it. I just don't like Sweeney Todd. Like, that is it. Like, I love everything about it except for that. And I don't.
Oh my God! Thank goodness you're not. Thank goodness you're not in charge of the Stephen Sondheim Museum.
That's it.
So to other folks, I love Julissa. Now she's got a hand thing. This is just too much. Does anyone have any other comments they want to make on this one? Kensington, go right ahead.
I want to start out by saying I love Sweeney Todd. And I also wanted to say, I get it, it's a fan. But I wanted to ask about, so I saw in there that, it talks about being like directly located on the bus line so that people have access to the performance space. and the audience size is so large. I wanted to know, I didn't see it in the grant. I was trying to scroll through while you guys were talking. What efforts are made to get people of a lesser means, or maybe like some of our students and families from title schools and places that have a really significant free and reduced lunch percentage, to be able to attend these programs? Working at a Title I school where 90, I think 3% of our kids are on free and reduced lunch, like getting comp tickets, reduced tickets, things like that would be huge. That would be a huge opportunity for our student body. So I wanted to know if there was maybe an effort like that to kind of increase involvement with the entire community. But outside of that, I agree with everything else.
Great, thanks so much. Anybody else want to add to this one? Go ahead, Jaleesa.
Okay. Yeah, I found the reaction, so I put the little hand up. I did have one comment. I had one comment, and correct me if I am wrong or if it's in a different section of the application. However, in the artistic qualities section, when there was a question asked regarding how the applicant is utilizing past experiences to inform this year's project, that information wasn't included in that section of the grant. And I know later on in the grant, there is discussion about, how will the impact be measured, and it's very detailed. However, just in answering that question in the section of the application, I didn't see any information.
Great. By the way, as a former arts partner, I will tell you, it's so wonderful when you can tell how thoroughly people have read applications. It's really nice. You guys are doing a great job. So why don't we, if there are no other comments, take a moment and you can update your scores on the Public Education Foundation's application. If you want to be queuing up our next one, it's for VU, for Vincennes University, the Art and Design Community Workshops. And that will be the next one. And Kyle is going to be the lead reader on that, if he wants to start bringing that up. And Maya is going to be our second reader on that. So when you're ready, give me the thumbs up and we'll head over to that one. Okay, so why don't we go ahead? We're going to do Vincennes University's Art and Community Design Workshops. Kyle, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so I'll go through each one. So artistic quality. I felt that the selection process, they said they had a national call for selection process with student input, was outstanding. The selection of Bill Fick, an internationally renowned artist coming to our neck of the woods, is a really, really good get. Yeah, he just seemed like a really good selection for that. The photographer also seemed, I looked at their artwork, seemed very nice too. I'm more familiar with Bill Fick. Project, sorry, my computer just like is having a day. All right, so on community engagement, some of the participant numbers are very hard to understand. Like is there a gallery of student works associated that I missed? Because there mentions at one point that there is a gallery of some sort. And then the number of students seemed, or number of participants seemed really high. I just want to know where that number came from, because that's not really explained. Yeah, that's that. And I really want to make sure that how available is this thing to the public? Is it to only Vincennes University students? Because if it is, that's fine. But bringing in bigger artists like this is something that might be opened up more to the community. What was the other one? Oh, project management. So it seems very laid out to the day, but I would be interested in what the workshop artist-led community demos, TBD, throughout the city each day actually means. Like, what does that mean? Is it through the city? Is it through the community? Is it through Vincennes University? Is it happening, like at a barber shop? Like, what does that mean? Like, what range is that? But other than all that, just the selection of the artist to bring that artist into this area is nice.
Great. And Maya, you're going to do the second read.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think this who they chose for the workshops were they're wonderful at their abilities of the printmaker and the photographer looking at their works. And it looks like they do a lot of traveling workshops, so they're very familiar with their artistic abilities. It looked like a nice gallery space. I saw a picture, so I'm not sure if that's the main gallery space. And then again, questioning where the location is, making sure it's accessible for everybody wherever the workshops are going to be. And that you're getting feedback through surveys. That was great. It did mention involving local schools and some community organizations. So I would like to see how you're going to market and reach out to those organizations and make sure that people are knowing that it's available to a greater audience than just the Vincennes University. And I was concerned about the number that you had in participants. So they had large numbers, and I didn't think that was realistic for a workshop. It said those invited. So I think maybe a more likely scenario of how many people would be able to participate in such a workshop would be better in the future. And the dates and timeline were well laid out, and I think it was a reasonable grant request for a traveling workshop to visit us and have some really talented artists share their knowledge.
That's great. Thanks, Maya. Does anybody else on the panel have any comments they wish to add to this? I see Samantha's raised her hand. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I could tell that the spirit of this application was really genuine, and I appreciated the goal to bring artists into a particularly rural area in Southern Indiana. I wish that the application, it's obvious from reactions from other artists that this is going to be a really cool and dynamic opportunity. I wish that the application had been able to reflect that more. I felt like it was really, a lot of things were really generalized, which I can understand that maybe details haven't been put into place, but I just felt like the application missed the mark of capturing the opportunity that is being, what a big deal it is, and how much of a gift this could be to our community. Let me see, I think that probably sums it up pretty well. There were just some different sections. I'm thinking of like the planning section and how to engage the community. Just felt really broad, like social media, talking about it to schools. And I think there could have been some really pointed ways to reach out and create partnerships with people that could really make this the big deal that it apparently is.
Great. And Jaleesa had a virtual hand up.
Yes, just based off of the comment regarding, who is invited, I went back to look at the grant because that's a question I had as well. If you have local and national talent, you want everyone in the community to be involved. And it does state that the events are located at Vincennes University on the campus, but it's open to all of Knox County, Wabash region, Southern Indiana. Just wanted to point that out so we can refresh ourselves when we go back in to look at some of the questions in our scores, that it is open to the community.
Great, thanks so much. Does anybody else have a comment they want to add on this one? Okay, if not, go ahead and go in and deal with your scoring modifications if you need to do any of that. The one that we're going to be queuing up next is ParksFest. Jaleesa's going to be leading us on that one, so she'll be doing that, and then Jennifer is going to be giving the second read on that. So give me the thumbs up and I'll turn it over to Jaleesa for ParksFest when we're ready. Okay. So with that, with all our little virtual thumbs and everything, we'll go ahead, and this is for ParksFest, which is our 7th application we're reviewing on this panel. And Jaleesa, it's all yours.
Okay, again, I went with strengths and weaknesses. The strengths I listed were the artistic quality in that area, inclusive lineup of diverse musical acts, both local and national. Most of the mainstream genres that one would think of for music are represented. It shows a clear effort to provide a quality program that's impactful and appeals to individuals and families. They stated later on in the evening they do have activities more for adults, beer garden, etc. But it's great that it's the full spectrum of individuals in the community, and also different age groups. They highlighted the lead staff for the project and their experience, so that's a positive, especially for this type of event, to have a successfully planned event. One of the weaknesses I did highlight, I would like to see more detailed project activities timeline, although they do list the activities and it's very thorough of each individual aspect that needs to be accomplished for this to be a successful event. The specific timeline for each activity is not listed. It's very broad from the starting month to the ending month. And showing the detailed timeline would give us evidence that there's activity delegation between the individuals that are working, as well as an understanding of the time that needs to be allotted for each activity. Having a broad span of a few months and stating that we have a certain number of things to accomplish is okay, but then breaking those down and detailing which months they will occur, which weeks, or how long it will actually take is especially important for this type of event. So those were the areas that I highlighted for discussion.
Great, thanks so much. And Jennifer, you're going to finish this one up.
Yeah, I was unclear as to how the acts were chosen. Like, does the board make that decision? Do the local artists apply, or is it like more of a who you know type of thing? But I will say that I did appreciate that they highlight that they do this in the Jacobsville area, which is a designated promise zone area. So I like that they included that in their application. But yeah, that's all I got.
Great. So do other members of the panel have anything they want to add to those comments? And Kensington, go ahead.
So looking at the timeline, because I went back and forth on that as well, about wanting more specificity, but also due to the size of the event and the number of moving parts, I can't help but wonder if it may not be possible, or if it may be impossible to get more specific than what it is right now, because there are so many moving parts and so many different organizations, people, and volunteers that have to be coordinated, that there may literally not be a way to be more specific than that. I really appreciated the Jacobsville involvement and engagement. I thought that was an excellent way of serving the community. And then I thought that the supporting materials were great too, getting to see people watching it happen, dancing, kids interacting with horses, stuff like that. I thought that was really engaging and exciting.
Great. Sam?
Yeah, thank you, Kensington, for mentioning the supporting materials. I enjoyed those also. I think an area that I would have liked to have seen more of in the grant is highlighting some of the non-music features, although I understand that maybe the funding purpose is specifically for the music, but it was evident from the video that there are so many other pieces to this event that have great artistic value, that having some of those highlighted as supporting pieces in the application would have been an asset for them, I think.
Great, thanks. Anybody else? Okay, if not, go ahead and modify and do whatever you need to do with your scoring. We're going to go ahead and queue up for the next one. I love this, Destination Huntingburgh. That sounds like a Lifetime movie. So we'll be doing that next, and Maya's going to be leading off and first read with that, with Samantha's going to do the second. So let me know when you're ready, and I'll turn it over to Maya then. Good, good, good. We're good there. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're going to move on now to Destination Huntingburgh. So I'll turn it
Can you hear me? Sorry. So I think Destination Huntingburgh, it's that summer concert series, and it looks like a wonderful venue, nice renovation that they've done down there, a great space for the community. It kind of reminds me of our First Fridays, and I'm glad they're doing it on Fourth Fridays. It kind of gives us an ability, because I would love to visit it as well. It looks beautiful. So having it on those different days is nice. The music, it looks like they're partnering up with IU, and I would like to see more visual arts, if they could get some more art vendors or something down there. It does appear in the video that it attracts a large crowd. They mentioned, the Latin community, getting them to play some music. I would like to hear more, or have said more on if they actually reached out to them, or if how they're approaching this, getting it to be more diversified. Yeah, it looks like they already have a nice stage and presence for such an event. The budget might have been a little reaching for some of it, although I do think it's a great opportunity for Huntingburgh to get the community together. Dates, though, I also was a little concerned with how the dates are going to work out. Even, with First Fridays here and everywhere, the likelihoods, but I know don't know how much to put out there on dates, if it could be modified,
Cool. By the way, we can see Dee Dee Shoemaker's ceiling of her kitchen, if you're interested. There we go. Dee Dee's a good friend of mine, by the way. I'm probably one of my fans that are on this call, just to see how witty I can be. Okay, our next reader on this, Samantha's going to do the second half on this for us. Turn it over to you.
Thank you. I felt like I echo a lot of Maya's sentiments about the strengths. Some concerns I had were the timeline that we were given really focused on the day of. I'd love to see more of their long-term planning, when they start, the partnerships that they form along the way. There were a lot of mentions of larger stakeholders, the IU, rural, I'm sorry, the name is escaping me and my scrolling is not helping me, but lacking maybe some information about specific community partners and community buy-in, and how they alluded to involving their downtown Huntingburgh. I'd love to know more about how they're planning to do that. Excellent staffing delegation. It seemed very efficient. I was very impressed by that. Having a contact point for every cog of the day was really impressive, and it's hard to do that in community planning, so I was appreciative of the inclusion of that information. The budget was concerning to me. I understand that it was pretty categorical, and some of it seemed appropriate. Marketing was one that struck me, especially as I was concerned that the marketing budget was higher than a lot of the I'm pretty sure it was higher than the artist fees. Yeah, so 22,500 for artist fees and performances, and 3,205 for marketing and signage. So I just was concerned about that. I'm sure that there are explanations for that information. It just wasn't included. So with an imbalance in the funding like that, I'd like to know more about why that money needs to be funneled in that direction, as opposed to back into the artists and the kind of the purpose of the event.
Great, thanks, guys. Does anybody else on the panel want to have any comment on Destination Huntingburgh? Yep, go ahead, Kyle.
I was really surprised at the lack of under 18 aged people involved in this. It just seems like there should be like a lot of maybe high school aged people that are either trying to get community service hours, for college applications, stuff like that, or just wanting to be involved in their city. I was just really surprised that that was so low, because when I think of Evansville, that's the opposite. Like there's a lot of 18 and under volunteers at any given event.
Great, thanks. Anybody else want to make a comment on this one? Kensington?
Because we specifically mentioned in the grant that they're trying to target the Latinx community, I would want specific examples of how they're going to bring that partnership into play, and going through like the Facebook page and the provided marketing materials. I'd love to see something that really targets that demographic a little bit more strongly, or even at all, so that we can see how that partnership can form.
Great, thanks. Anybody else? Okay, before we go on, we just have one more application due before we go on, because a lot of members of the public or our grant applicants who are listening or watching this Zoom call, they often just drop off the second we get done, which is because they're smart and they're sick of being on Zoom meetings all day, like the rest of us, tired of looking at our little faces like the Brady Bunch. I just want to remind everybody, especially our applicants and members of the public, how much time and effort these panelists have put in to review all of these applications in a level of depth that you can tell they have taken this job very seriously. And for many of these organizations and nonprofits especially, this is one of the few chances that they get to have a peer review of their grant applications that will hopefully make them better at seeking fund development opportunities across a whole variety of other spectrums. So the work that our panelists at the Indiana Arts Commission do not only assist the IAC in our efforts to make sure that we get our public money out there to provide arts everywhere, every day for everyone, but it also makes all of our arts organizations, and in this case, our arts projects, stronger because they're able to go out and seek additional sources because of the fact that these people have taken so much time to thoughtfully review these applications and provide that. So I always like to get to say that before everybody goes away, because just telling these people, they know we love them. So our last application is from Vincennes University, their Film and Lecture Council. Samantha is going to be our lead reader on that, and then Kensington is going to be our second reader on that. And again, this is our last application on this panel for this afternoon. So I will turn it over to Sam.
Thank you. So starting with the artistic quality, this application I felt was very thorough and did a great job of identifying the strengths of this program. There's a clear effort to tackle what in my mind I called relevant diversity, and have the difficult conversations in a rural area. You know, focusing on Amish community, Latinx community, and having given past examples of opioid crisis, and there were so many ways in, and something about internet, which was really cool, and I'll look that up later, but there was a really clear effort to not shy away from difficult conversations and difficult topics within the community. And you know, I think that is it's hard to do, and I really admired the efforts that they had here. I loved the references to past years and the clear efforts to expand that they have put in place here, co-sponsorships, changing the ways in which they register their event attendees, you know, shifting to Eventbrite. I love when a program can adapt and grow, and clearly they're growing and they need different resources to make that work. I found that in terms of opportunities for growth, the planning steps were really lacking, and you know, it's hard to know how people interpreted that answer, but I would have loved to have known more than just an events list. You know, how it was being promoted. There are so many pieces of buy-in that I would like to know how each of those pieces of buy-in is going to work in order to best promote and facilitate the event. And I think that wraps up my input on that.
Great, and Kensington, you're going to be our second reader on this one.
I honestly would agree with almost all of that. I thought that the grant was concise and specific. I think the offerings are really diverse and challenging for the community. Don't have anything further to add.
Great. Do other members of the panel want to add anything on Vincennes University? Go ahead, Jaleesa.
I highlighted in the community engagement portion where they're asked to list a clear evaluation plan to measure the success of the project. And in that section, I did not see information on how that would be accomplished. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but in going through that was an area that I highlighted to actually see, how they would evaluate, what's the plan, how they measure success for the project.
Great, thanks. Anybody else want to add anything on this one? Okay, seeing none, once you go ahead and hop on your computer and make sure you've got any modifications you need to do to this one. And before we turn off the recording and end our public portion of this meeting, we of course want to again thank all of our panelists for their willingness to put in this time and effort to really make this review so helpful for not only the Indiana Arts Commission, but also for each of our grantees. And I'll turn it back over to Ann, if Ann would like to make any public comments or anything before we go off. After that, thank you for those of you members of the public and applicants who joined us and listened today. Ann?
Hi, yeah, thank you, Scott, so much. Scott served as the facilitator in both the first panel session this morning and this panel session, so he's had the longest day of all, and I just really appreciate your leadership and the way that you led this panel and the previous one. I hope you'll do it next year. Thanks also to the IAC for allowing us to be a part of this process. I think it's incredibly important